Hey, I am Jörgen Andersson, and this dog was named Bess. I believe our civilization is more like a flock of cows than we are like Titanic. Happy cows, but running towards a dangerous cliff. But all it takes is a brave little dog, running in closely, surprising and convincing the herd to turn, and suddenly we are on our way to green pastures and shading trees. The dog doesn't need to understand everything. It is just causing a sudden disturbance, enabling better visions to emerge. I am a Swedish farmer, and 10 years ago I discovered holistic management and regenerative agriculture. Here are animals grazing in wintertime, and that is all it takes to be strange. What is natural has become strange and quite often even illegal. Since 6 years, we are giving service to a Nordic network for regenerative agriculture, and our hub is participating in a global network facilitated by Savory Institute. Some people depend on nature for survival, and the truth is that we all do. Always have and always will. But the civilization we born into suffers from a stupid idea separating us from nature. Stupid because it allows us to do damage without realizing we are hurting ourselves. And stupid because it makes us blind for nature's capacity to help us out in our mess. Good thing is that it's just an idea and we can just get rid of it. Serious problems calling for attention, underperforming ecosystems, wasteful management of resources, inflicting symptoms such as climate change and social unrest. As we address underperforming ecosystems, the threats of climate change will go away as well. Here's an image of a vital ecosystem. It illuminates the absence of animals everywhere else. The picture shows a symphony of life orchestrated by evolution. The tunes played by the grazing animals are crucial. They provide services to the innumerable life forms embodying the soil. The underperformance of this ecosystem is caused by us, our ignorance and our arrogance. And since it is Africa, I am as well addressing myself as a European. We do have a debt to pay. Here's another underperforming ecosystem. It generates green growth, but only for a part of the season and only at the cost of massive inputs. Our harvests from here are starch, sugar and oils, mostly used as unnatural feed for animals, and some of it as even less natural food for humans. The food industry, or food chain, is controlling the most and the best of global resources for food production. Yet it is only feeding a minority of us, which is somehow a good thing, since most people eating the products are losing their health. Rule of thumb is that we need $2 extra for every dollar we give to the food chain in order to pay for damage on environment and public health. But this is the kind of agriculture I was born into and educated to perform. I used to compete in plowing and took pride in the volumes of food a small number of farmers are able to produce. It sure wasn't a pleasant journey to question all those values and to realize traditional farming as the art of preventing photosynthesis and biodiversity. It is still true that this tractor is a wonder of efficiency, and this plow is genially designed, and most of all, that diesel is nothing short of a miracle. If I visit the land a couple of times with my machinery, I can sell oats for 2 Swedish crowns per kilo, while the middlemen are are now mixing that oats with water and sell it for 200 Swedish crowns per kilo as fake milk at twice the price of real milk. The middleman now keeps 99% for themselves, leaving 1% to pay for the diesel. If we were to transform this land into perennial grassland, mimicking nature and producing milk, I would have to build my skills as a farmer and do more work. But my costs for diesel and such would almost vanish. Healthy soils would transfer its vitality to people, while money and nature would be saved. So, grazing animals are required to build the vitality of most ecosystems. But these animals are a very powerful tool, just as able to do damage as they are to do good. To the left we see what can be the result from a small number of animals spending a long time in the same place. Plants trying to recover are grazed again and again until they perish. To the right is what it looks like when bigger numbers of animals are constantly on the move, enabling the grass to fully recover between grazings. Here is Tanzania and another example of cows' capacity to destroy. Once the rain finally came, after cows having reduced the capacity of the soil to receive it, devastating erosion was the result. Same cows could have been managed to build this soil, enabling it to receive and store all the water from these rains, enabling green growth and year-round steady flow of clear water in the stream. So, when we see brown water like this, we know that somebody upstream have been using animals or diesel to destroy life on this planet. It is a lot about roots. Low-value monocultures on high-value land with tiny roots, leaving plants very vulnerable. As much as roots are a way for plants to get what they need, they are as well a source for the living soil to receive its energy from the sun. Regenerative agriculture is defined as enabling highest imaginable vitality of ecosystems by effectively satisfying human needs. On this scale, from 0 to 100, we can estimate the present vitality to be somewhere in between no life at all and the highest vitality possible on the specific location. As we become dedicated and creative for highest imaginable vitality, we will experience a faster and further recovery compared to what nature is able to do without us. Anthropocene is our time on this planet, and let's make it a glorious one. Here is Gabe Brown in North Dakota. Gabe has developed and implemented 5 regenerative principles for farming. Keep the soil covered, minimize soil disturbance, increase crop diversity, always keep living roots in the soil, integrate livestock. The amount of carbon has quadrupled, now surpassing levels of the ancient prairie. Plant available nutrients are now 10 times higher without adding any fertilizers. And no matter the intensity of the rain, his soils are absorbing and holding the water. Yields are up and costs are down. Gabe and his fellow pioneers are now spreading the word. And we give thanks to internet, since institutions are still fighting holistic management. The mammoth steppe, a pristine state of nature, now in the absence of animals, taken over by the taiga forests and the tundra. But this used to be the biggest ecosystem on the planet. Sergei Zimov, a Russian scientist, shows the mammoth steppe to have been extraordinarily productive, and why it desperately needs to be restored in order to preserve the permafrost in the far north. To the left, we see an estimate of the prehistoric wildlife, 1,500 million tons. And to the right, we see that grazing animals now are less than half of what they used to be. And we know that most of them are not allowed to play their role in nature. We need to free our livestock and manage them properly. When we do, the wild animals will return, as we have already seen it happen in Africa. And as the grass returns, we must build the numbers of livestock and wildlife to keep up with life returning to our soils. This picture shows flows and stocks of carbon. It shows abused ecosystems still playing the big role and providing the realistic opportunities regarding climate. Sequestering runaway carbon into our soils must be the ultimate no-brainer of all times. For perspective, we can compare annual photosynthesis with annual increase of atmospheric carbon. In theory, we need 3% more photosynthesis to put a halt to the increase. 6% maintained for 2 generations equals the total atmospheric increase. 10% more carbon in plants and soils equals all fossil fuels ever burned. The more carbon in our soils, the more water it holds, and the better it grows. The better it grows, the bigger the cooling effect from plant transpiration. The cooling from 5% more transpiration equals the global warming at present. Another cool thing is the chemical decomposition from the sunlight on the transpired water vapor. In a functioning ecosystem, it breaks down all the methane from the animals. And yet one more cool thing is how bacteria from plants follow the water vapor to the atmosphere and enable the creation of raindrops. So the more it grows, the more it rains. As you are noticing, we do have a major problem with so-called junk science, used to distort our focus from properly addressing the challenges of our time. Science is a great tool, but as with all tools, it requires proper management. We need to realize that institutions tend to become more stupid than the people managing them. This knowledge should keep us from escaping the responsibility to think for ourselves. How should a regenerative society be defined? The society emerging from people implementing personal responsibility. Sometimes you hear people calling for institutions to become responsible. But institutions are tools in our hands, just like axes and spades. So blaming our tools, and then what? As much as we hate responsibility, it isn't going anywhere. Biggest possible satisfaction of human needs with smallest possible negative sacrifice. That makes sense, does it not? Corporations and institutions for the benefit of our lives. Or is it the other way around? Our lives for the benefit of corporations and institutions. We are in fact stimulating growth on the sacrifice of resources and nature. Running together towards the cliff without a reason why. We do need the courage of that dog. So, do you choose to be influential and participating in whatever seems important in your life? 0 is the total victim of circumstance, never responsible for anything, anytime. And 100 is the perfect opposite. That may give us some challenge to imagine what that would be like. Swedish people happily admits they are somewhere at 25 on this scale. We tend to say, it is all their fault, they are so stupid. We rarely say, improving things is my opportunity to give more meaning to my life. Does democracy emerge from victims of circumstance? and with market economy defined as responsible people making free choices to sell or buy. Should we question whether democracy and market economy are great ideas, still to be tested? Now, bear with me now. I claim planned economy and capitalism equally being the opposite of democracy and market economy, diminishing perspectives to a left and right debate of the most favorable mixing ratio between the two. Looking at it this way, democracy and market economy will emerge as a natural consequence of people choosing to be responsible. Big institutions and big corporations, as ineffective as they are, thrives among victims of circumstance. Efficiency of local economies emerges where people choose to, or simply have to, be responsible. 70% of the civilization are still feeding themselves within local economies, or the food web, while 30% are at the mercy of the food chain, losing health and wealth to a destructive beast built by us. It already controls 75% of the resources, but it wants more, and it wishes to sell products of even lower quality at an even higher price. And unless we climb the ladder of personal responsibility, it will have its way. Previous picture in background, an arrow indicating direction to regenerate ecosystems to the left. Below is the prevailing model designed for the success of middlemen, such as corporations, banks and institutions, leaving farmers desolated and consumers misinformed and alienated. Above is where we are heading as we realize that farming is everybody's business. I call it lagom, when there are enough relation and legal agreements between farmers and consumers to transform the roles of middlemen into mere functions of societal service. So, in my perception, here is the choice of our time. Head on, high speed, towards the cliff, leaving management of land to corporations, institutions, or to bitter, desolated, grumpy old men, and of course to diesel. Or move in closely to the responsibility of nature and each other, establish platforms for crowd equity funding, innovative legal agreements for access to land, and surrender to holistic management. Here is the cliff. Becoming responsible for our lives reveals the necessity to define what kind of life we want and how our actions will take us there. It reveals as well the necessity to shape our future resource base to the capacity of supporting the life we want for ourselves and for our children. This is in short what the framework of decision making called holistic management is about. We need to figure out how we are going to design the monuments of Anthropocene and make them more impressive than anything previously built by less experienced and less powerful civilizations. My vision is 10 billion architects on one single project, the highest imaginable vitality of ecosystems accomplished by effectively satisfied human needs. It is a great thing to be standing on the shoulders of success from 2 million years of learning by failing. Thank you very much for your attention.